Hello and welcome to Anderson Community Television. I'm Carol Donahue, your host today of At Your Service. And Service is this man's middle name, I think. We've had him on our show a number of times. He's one of my favorite guests, and I'd like to introduce to you today Assistant Fire Chief Tom Reamer from Anderson Township Fire and Rescue. Welcome, Tom.
Oh, thank you, Carol.
Well, we made it through the summer, that hot, sticky, especially September and August.
Yes.
And now we're heading into the period where the leaves are falling off the trees and we're doing a different type of yard maintenance.
Yes.
So let's talk about the proper and maybe the not so proper ways to deal with yard waste.
Yeah, and you're right. We are coming into fall. We're going to be seeing everything from a lot of leaves are going to be on the ground to maybe some dead limbs coming off the trees. And I think there's a lot of confusion about what you should or really shouldn't do with those. And the first thing we need to kind of understand is how the whole recreational fire and or open burning, what that really means. And in Anderson Township, in order to do what we consider an open burn, you do have to have a permit. And let me explain first what open burning is. Open burning is any type of burning that you're doing that's not in a contained type device. Contained type device being if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you buy a chimenea or you buy an outdoor fireplace, that's a contained type device. It's a manufactured device. And you can have a recreational fire in that as long as you're 15 feet away from your house and you have some type of fire extinguisher or a garden hose available just in case it would get out of hand. Now we do recommend you make sure that in addition to being 15 feet from your house that you're not doing it on a wood deck or something something close by. So thinking about what might be around it that might catch on fire. And that's legal as long as you're burning what we consider dry season firewood. But we do see a fair amount of what we consider open burning. And that's burning of yard waste or debris or leaves in like a barrel or a drum, or if they've created some kind of a fire pit in the backyard, and that is illegal, and we don't allow that.
So what happens if you're burning, as the way you said, and the next door neighbor has his window open, and that smoke sort of drifts? Can he have you put that out?
Oh, absolutely, and I think there's two parts to that. Obviously, if you're illegally burning, it's really easy. But even if you've gone out and you've gotten the proper device and you've got your dry season firewood in there and maybe it's making a little bit more smoke than you thought and it's going in your neighbor's windows and they object, you do have to put it out. And that kind of goes back to that whether your neighbor asks you or whether they wind up calling 911, which we do get a fair amount of those calls, we will ask you to put it out.
Now, is there a fine for that?
There can be, but in most cases, as long as the resident is reasonable and does what we ask, puts it out, and doesn't really cause us any grief, they're not repeat offenders. In most cases, we do a verbal warning and ask them not to do it again.
Okay, now when Tom Reamer's doing his yard, and he's going to be raking those leaves, tell us what you're going to do with it.
Well, it's interesting that I don't burn my yard debris, which is good.
Good for you.
And the best place to take it is someplace that recycles it. So if you've got your leaves or your sticks in one of the Hamilton County Recycling Center, which is actually Bezek Landscaping right there on Turpin Lane, which is on the west end of Newtown, right off of 32, accepts all the yard waste for free. So you can check, you can give them a call, check their website, find their hours of operation. But that's really the best option because a couple things are going to happen. First off, you're not going to pollute the atmosphere. You're not going to take the risk of starting a fire, accidental fire. You're not going to aggravate your neighbors, and the material's actually going somewhere where it's going to be ground up and used again. And I think it's important to realize that we've had some significant fires that have resulted in open burning. Yes. Within the last probably 2 to 3 years, we've had a resident that was burning leaves in his backyard, thought the fire was out, left it unattended for some period of time. The wind actually kicked up a little bit and caught an ember that wasn't quite out and rekindled it. And the fire actually made its way across his yard over to the house, and actually the house was completely destroyed. So, and that's not an isolated case. So there really is a significant hazard. And I guess in hindsight, when you're looking at, gee, I could have taken my leaves down to Bezek and gotten rid of them and been done, versus now you're working on trying to figure out how, where you're going to live and how to rebuild your house.
if someone has a hard time getting out and doing those things, I mean, they can put it in containers and Rumpke will take it or whoever.
Yes, you can set it up for Rumpke. They do take yard waste. Again, depending on where you live, you just want to check with Rumpke and see what they expect. Whether it's in a special can or whether it's in a bag, but they will take it. And I believe the Ohio Mulch on Mount Carmel Tabasco Road also takes yard waste. So if you're on the east end of the township, that might be another option available to you to take it up there. Again, check with them. The one I'm most familiar with is one I use, which is BZAC, and it is the official Hamilton County site, and that is free to all Hamilton County residents.
Because I know it's confusing, especially if people have just moved to the township from the city, because there's certain areas in the city where they rake it down and leave it by their curb and the city picks it up. So just so people know that isn't done here.
No, I've seen that. I know Madera does that, and that's kind of neat when you see in the fall they're all raking them to the curb and they're getting the service to come and pick them up.
But then their taxes are wrong.
Well, I don't know, but no, we don't do that. And again, we're hoping to see people recycle. And it is possible that you could actually get a permit, but most of the residents in the township don't qualify, and that's kind of another misunderstanding that folks think that if I'm a certain distance from my home, why can't I have a fire? Why can't I put some rocks in a circle and have a small fire pit? And the fire regulations are that you have to be 150 feet from your house, but you have to be 1,000 feet from your neighbor's house. And in most cases, most of our residents just don't fit into that criteria.
So the person then, if they meet that criteria, gets that permit, and then do they have to apply for that every year?
Yes. If they do meet those requirements, then they can come to the firehouse or come to the fire department here at Anderson Center here, and they can fill out an application. There is a fee involved. And then what we do is we'll do a site visit to make sure that the site is appropriate, make sure there's not loose ground cover, there's not overhanging trees, because even if you meet those distances, we could still determine that there's still a risk of fire or fire spreading.
And I would
then we also regulate when you can do it. So it can't be a windy day. It can't be, if it's like what we're going through now with some real dry weather and we haven't had rain for a week or two, we restrict all burning. So it's just too risky.
Well, so much of that, like you say, when the air quality is really bad, people who have asthma, people who have allergies and pulmonary issues, that can be a real health hazard.
Oh, absolutely.
So that is really good. So in other words, things could change. Do you just make a surprise drive-by sometime just to check on them?
No, actually, if they get a permit, even with a permit, you're required to call us the day that you're actually going to burn.
Oh,
so they have to call the fire station, say, here's who I am, here's where I'm living, I've got this permit, and I'm going to be burning today. And at that point, we may say, well, you can't burn today, it's too windy, or the conditions aren't right, or we can let them go ahead and burn.
I see.
So there are a lot of regulations with it. And that's where I go back to, when you look at the regulations, maybe today is the day that you've planned to clean up your yard, but the conditions aren't right, it just is so much easier just to recycle it.
Oh, I would think so. Well, we're entering that time of the year where we have other issues to face too.
Yes.
We like the candle issue and.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, as we go into the winter months, we also see a different change in the type of risks for fire. And we're looking at things from space heaters to extension cords to fireplaces, furnaces. And again, prevention is the best cure. So, before we get into the heating season, have a professional check your furnace. Check the flue to make sure the birds didn't build a nest in the flue during the summer. If you've got a fireplace and you're going to be using a fireplace, have a professional check that. If you're using portable heaters, make sure you've got a minimum of 3 feet clearance to any combustible item, whether it's a sheet or a blanket or a box, and don't leave portable heaters unattended. They need to be attended 100% of the time because they do have a risk of fire. And if you're using a portable heater, it needs to be plugged directly into the wall. And that extension cords. And that goes back to that electrical risk. You mentioned candles. If we have a power outage in the winter and you decide whether you're using candles or you're using flashlights, and of course we recommend that you have a flashlight all the time. If you're using candles, you need to make sure that they're in some type of a containment. A heavy base, something that won't tip over, protected with glass, or masonry of some type. And it really, most important, needs to be absolutely out of the reach of not only children, but pets. And again, we've had fires where the candle was in a containment, but it was in a place where either the dog's tail knocked it over, or maybe a small child reached up to a table and knocked it over, and next thing you know, it came in contact with a towel or a blanket or some other type of material and started a fire.
Or in that season too, we used to just think about candles and lights for Christmas. Now a lot of people decorate for Halloween.
Yes.
And you see the outside lights, you see the pumpkins lit up, and it's another thing you have to really watch for, especially with the kids. If you do put a candle in that carved pumpkin, it's so interesting to look in. And
oh yeah, and again, that can be done very safely. You know, putting the pumpkin somewhere where it's not going to roll over and start something on fire if there's a candle in it. You know, stabilizing that pumpkin so it doesn't roll. Putting a candle in there that's got some type of protection on it that it's not going to tip over. You don't want to just stick a loose candle inside of there. And again, if you're going to bed at night, blow it out. Don't have it just burning all the time. And as you and I discussed last time, do the battery-operated candles.
oh, everybody, he turned me on to this, and I love it, especially on a fireplace on a cold night. You just turn the little switch, and it flickers like a real candle. I really like it. Thanks for that
Oh, you're
tip.
welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And it's not going to start a fire.
And it's not going to start a fire. Well, I think the people at where did I buy those? The handyman store there
Yeah.
are really. So I think you should get a little commission on
No,
that.
no. Well, and I think that when we start looking at some of the things at winter safety, a lot of it is just basic common sense.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of looking at what's the worst thing that can happen. If I light a candle, can it tip over? If I've got a heater, is there something that, you know, I'm putting a portable heater next to my bed, am I going to throw the sheets off in the middle of the night and get it draped on the heater where it's going to start a fire?
Isn't that what happened in Clifton?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
such a shame.
A preventable tragedy, and that's why we want to get the word out. You know, just looking at the things that can start those fires and trying to prevent that.
Do you do, I think you do regular inspections of certain facilities just to check on the fire safety there, like say New England Club or some
Yes.
facilities?
Yeah, we inspect all of our commercial buildings at least once a year. And so any building that's being run as a business, we inspect. And if it's even condos and apartments, we inspect the common areas. We don't inspect the living areas, but we do get in all the common areas, look at hallways, emergency signs, exit signs, make sure all those things are, you know, working properly and able to get out. And we're real big on exits. You know, making sure that all the exit doors in the building are operational and folks can get out.
I see. I noticed, like on so many condominiums now, they're more. It's not like a one condo; it's many in a group. Are there firewalls between those condominiums?
It depends on when the building was built, and of course, there's different codes that have been enforced over the years. In most cases, they will be. Not in all cases. Again, it's going to go back to the building code at the time the building was built.
Now, going back to what we talked about before, this time of the year, we want to have the furnace inspected, and a chimney sweep, I think, is just such a great thing to have, just to check to make sure, like you say, there's no nest, there's no creosote
absolutely.
built up inside of that.
Absolutely. And if you're burning either, if you have a fuel-fired furnace, so you're using propane or natural gas for your furnace, or if you have a fireplace that you're using, make sure you've got a carbon monoxide detector and make sure the batteries in it are good and it's operational. So that if there is some type of a failure that you're going to be warned. That's critical. And you need to have a carbon monoxide detector on every level of the house. And if you're closing bedroom doors, they should be in every room, along with a smoke detector.
I see, because I know when you do remodeling now, I think it's a requirement that they go ahead and put the fire device there.
Yes.
By the building, by the
Yes.
bedrooms.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what do you see as the biggest concern right now? What are you the busiest with right now?
Well, interestingly enough, we're doing a lot of new construction right now, which is really exciting. I think the economy is turning, and I look at what's going on here in Anderson Township, and we're seeing a lot of development, which is very exciting. Some new businesses, everything from small businesses within strip centers to very large complexes. We've got the River Downs Racino project which is just booming, which is going to be, I think, a huge plus to our community.
Why don't you remind the people about that?
Yes, it's very exciting. River Downs, for those who've been here forever, remember, I remember going to River Downs as a kid and watching the horses race. It's being renovated. It's going to be a Racino, and the Racino will still have the horse racing, and it's also going to have electronic gambling machines. And it's a significant improvement to our community. There's going to be 3 restaurants in the facility.
Great.
It's about 140,000 square feet, so it's a very, very large building. And if you get down by Kellogg Avenue, you can drive by and see the construction is going very, very quickly. So we're very excited about that. I see that that's put a lot of people to work as far as construction. And at some point when the facility opens, it's going to put people to work just working in there. So very, very exciting.
What a great place, too, as an entertainment center. You've got Old Coney there, you've got Riverbend, you've got now this facility. That'll be great.
Oh, I think that's what makes it very unique over some of the other casinos that, I say casino, compared to, say, downtown, whereas you can come out and you'll have the horse racing, you'll have Riverbend next door for concerts, you're going to have Coney Island next door for recreation. So I think that that's really going to be a very unique entertainment complex for us.
Okay, let's just go back to and revisit this one. I see a lot of people right now, they're having issues with trees. Trees are dying and they're cutting them down and they're sawing, or they're, with a chainsaw with the wood. That wood cannot be burned immediately. That has to be seasoned, correct?
It should be seasoned. If it's dead, it may already be seasoned. Some of the ash trees, by the time you cut them down, they are seasoned. They've been dead long enough that they're dry. The issue with an outdoor fire, if it's not dry and seasoned, that it puts out a lot of smoke. And that's your tree. If you've got a tree that you're pruning back and it's still alive and that wood is green, it will smoke significantly. And that's offensive. It also pollutes the atmosphere. So when we say dry season firewood, it's very possible, depending on how long the tree's been dead, that it may already be that way. And when we say dry, if you've got your wood and it's been sitting out in the rain for 3 or 4 days and you're trying to start a fire, that thick white smoke that is just going to billow until it builds up enough heat to overcome that is also dangerous for the environment and offensive to your neighbors. Trying to think about being a good neighbor and not aggravating them with heavy smoke. And I think it gets more important as we go into fall, because more and more folks are. It's getting to be the nice weather, and you open your windows, and you're wanting to have that, that fresh air coming into your house, and then next thing you know, you've got smoke from a fire.
And you're still involved with your going to the schools, talking about safety with the children?
Yes. We're doing a lot of programs in the schools, which is very good. We still see a lot of when we do have unfortunate accidents, and we have good outcomes. In other words, maybe a fire in the home, and everybody gets out safe. We're still hearing that a lot of that comes from what we've done with the kids in the schools and the kids taking that information home. And not just in our schools, but one thing we are seeing a lot of, both in the schools and in some of our commercial outlets, is we're seeing a lot of parking in fire lanes. It seems to be a big increase in that for some reason recently. And we want to remind folks that all the fire lanes are regulated 24 hours a day. And I think it goes back to that kind of lack of understanding of what a fire lane means, that if a business is closed at night, well, it's probably okay for me to park there because they're not open. And the building can still catch on fire, whether it's open or not. And those lanes are designed to make our quick access. It could be that the building's not on fire. It could be that someone in the building's having a heart attack. And we're trying to get there with our paramedic units, and we're trying to get there very quickly. And those folks that maybe park for that 10 or 15 minutes because they're dropping something off or running inside to get something and trying to make it convenient for themselves really could restrict our ability to do a good job. So we just want to remind our residents and visitors that fire lanes are 24/7, 365.
That's right. And also parking on the correct side of the street in some of our subdivisions.
Yes. You'll see that the hydrant side of the streets in Anderson Township is no parking. So and cul-de-sacs. So if there is a hydrant on that side of the street, you are not to park there. And the same with the cul-de-sacs. And that's, again, both for our access to get up and down the street, but also to reach that hydrant. do our job as quickly and efficiently as we can to try to reduce property damage and potentially save lives.
Now viewers can go to the website and check on some hints, helpful hints on your website,
Yes,
correct?
yes. They can go to our website, andersontownship.org, and we've got some helpful hints on safeties. We've got some helpful hints on putting together your safety kits for the winter so that you've got your supplies. So you've got your non-perishable food, you've got your water, your flashlight, and your battery-operated radio. So when you lose power, you can stay informed. And how to put together a quick car kit to do the same. And we've also got, under the Life Safety Division, under the Fire Department, open burning regulations. So we talked earlier about open burning. If folks want to find out more about open burning, our regulations are on there. You can look there and see what it might take to get a permit so that you understand what the rules are.
And if there's any questions, you can be contacted.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's better to call rather than to make that mistake and then be sorry.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And we'll work with folks. You know, we're here to try to make the community better, make it safer, and try to just help educate. And I think that in most cases what we see when we're seeing folks that are having some kind of issue, whether they're open burning or they're parking in a fire lane or some of those activities that we might disapprove of, in most cases it's a lack of understanding or a lack of information. And that's why, again, we're just trying to help educate folks on what that really means.
And you know, you all do such a wonderful job keeping us safe. So if there's some parting words you would like to leave for our viewers?
Well, good common sense. I mean, that's if you can think about whether it's winter safety, things that are going to make good sense to you, you know, making sure that candle's safe, and just kind of respecting your neighbors when we're thinking about the open burning and what your activities, whether it's parking in a fire lane or having an open burn, how it might affect others. So, and again, as Carol said, just give us a call.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tom Reamer. And thank you all for watching Anderson Community Television. And please take these hints to heart and keep safe and enjoy this wonderful fall weather. Goodbye.